Guys, welcome back to Salty Gills stuck in the barn slash boat walkthrough. I'm sure you guys have seen it. We've gone through Chris's completely different boats here. Haynie 25 Magnum came straight out of Chris's Marine. To be honest, it came with a lot more than we're going to show you today, and a lot of that's just simplification, how it all worked out, and what we use versus what you can just put on a boat. Sometimes use, is it worth keeping up with, and we'll go through some of that as well. To start off, Haynie 25 Magnum hull, no tunnel on this one. This is pre-tunnel models, and then also I personally still wouldn't run one right now. You got the full-size console up front. I believe this is like a full level console. I forget what they actually call it. Up front, you got a live well. It's insulated. I think I've used it as a live well maybe one time, but besides that does not even have a switch currently to it. We'll go through all that on the switches, but front live well slash front cooler slash we mainly use it as storage for all of our cameras, any day bags that anyone's bringing. When we go offshore, we use it a little bit more for tackle. Up top, you have another flip down cushion. That's all storage. It does a really good job staying dry until you wash the boat and the water actually comes down from the top of the console. Put all of our dry boxes, wallets, keys, anything smaller pretty much goes in there. Up top, we have a 32-inch light bar on the top. The top did really well for a little bit. The more and more that this boat was ran offshore, top just wouldn't hold up. We ended up having to add gold wings in. South Texas Aluminum Works did all that work for us. Makes the thing super strong, mounts up to the top of the console, does a great job from keeping everything shaking around. Got the antenna mounted to the side. That flips up and down. When we bring it in the barn, bring it down. When we go out, flip it back up. Up top, you got both GPSs. You have a 9-inch and I believe an 8-inch. One's an older model, one's new. Running offshore boats, running in the bay, it is so useful to have two screens. You can get a mega screen. I think they make like a 20-inch now, Simrad does. Both those are Garmin's. I just like the dual layout. You can get two. You can get one massive one. At that point, you're basically doing the same thing. What I like about these is we can run two different styles of transducers for two different things. I can take one, zoom it completely out, have a little bit more screen for like the person sitting next to me, my passenger. If we're snapper fishing, that one's a little more versatile too. But also, I still have one screen immediately in front of me. That's usually the one that I'll run zoomed in super tight. I run it at a 500-foot pattern. That's that one that when I'm running through the rocks and baffing, I can make sure I'm zoomed in, I'm staying on my line. The other one I can kind of zoom out when you're running in the dark. Even with the light bar, you want to make sure you more or less know which spoil you're coming up to or what's in front of you that may interest you. Sea-Star helm, that actually just got replaced. Valves went bad in it. Just one of those things that some of them last forever, some of them don't. This one didn't last forever. Cup holders on both sides. I would definitely change the size of those. They do not take big Yeti cups well, just the little Yeti cups. Fill up right here on the side. On port side, that's great. You pull up to the gas station. You really want to make sure that's on the same side as your car, because then you can fill both of them up at the same time, which makes it super easy, convenient, all that good stuff. SAS seating, that upholstery is done by Haynie. It's about time to renew it. They've seen many butts and many hours on them. Rack for the seats comes up. That is one of those things. They position it to where you need it, how it's most comfortable. The seats slide forward and back, but you still want to be in a comfortable position. Opted to have it a little closer so you have a little bit more room in the back for your passengers. Even with people in the back, we can still pull the cooler out from underneath the seat, have them get to beers, drinks while we're driving, and do all that fun stuff. Got water pressure, RPM, SmartCraft gauge up top. You have water pressure on the side, and then the other one, fuel tank. That SmartCraft gauge is awesome. It tells you pretty much anything that you need to do with an alarm that comes up or any info you might need without having it hooked up to the GPS even. Pretty much tells you what your codes are, what problems you're having. Makes it really easy just to, some people don't spend the money on it. Some engines it comes with automatically. That thing makes it super easy to run the boat and know everything and how it's happening. Going around the console, I've got Rockford Fosgate speakers. Guys, I've had multiple people tell me comparable size wet sounds, that's what originally came with the boat. These Rockford Fosgate speakers with the right amp, 4 of them, they push more air than 6 of the wet sounds or any other speakers that we've been around. They're awesome. I probably won't go back from anything else. Some people have problems with quality from them, saying that stuff kind of falls apart. Guys, we are super, super, super hard on these speakers. They are in areas where they get kicked. They get water sprayed at them, pressure washed, all types of fun stuff. We haven't had any issues with them yet. Moving to the back, you got 4 rod holders back here, as well as 4 on the top and 4 on each side of the console. These are great for when we go offshore. We put all of our rods up top, but when you're rigging or you set a rod down or you're dealing with fish, to have these right here, as well as when we troll. So if we're trolling, we got 2 angled rod holders on each side, flush. Those are at, I believe, 30 degrees out to each side of the boat. We'll run an out rod on each side, and then we'll run something vertically here, as well as 2 more rod holders where that bench actually goes into the back. Going back to the back, you got another live well underneath this seat. That is a 60-gallon live well, I believe. That live well is massive. You can put drinks in there, fish in there. When we go offshore, I think we can fit 12 good-sized snapper back there with ice, brine them, turn the pump on just a little bit, get a slurry going. It's been amazing just to be able to throw some fish in the back and then have another cooler that you're not having to touch until you fill this one up. Backside compartments on each side. These things are massive. You can use them as fish boxes. You can use them for storage. We like to put all of our wade bags on this one. Wade ladder on the back. You walk up, put your bag in here, then get up on the ladder. Your plugs go in here as well. These things, they're not insulated. I've put ice, I've put water in them before, drinks. They're not really meant for that, but you can, and still have the ability to clean them out super fast if you do choose to put fish or something in there. They're on both sides. No rigging in these at all. Going back here before we get to the engine, guys, you got your main rigging compartment in here. This is where all your electricals tying back to power pole pumps, steering pumps, trim pumps, anything like that, jack plate pumps. Everything is housed back here. Lift that up, you have access to everything. If you check it, you can check everything all at once. Coming back here, you got a Bob's jack plate. Thing makes it super easy to run your boat correctly, but also run shallow. Haven't had any problems with these Bob systems. Some people prefer the Atlas. These things are tough, super, super tough. I know they pretty much go on everything now, and just a great option to help get your engine up, let you run appropriately how you need to be for fuel economy, for speed, and then at the end of the day, just to get up shallow and be able to run some places that you wouldn't be able to without that jack plate, or set it all the way down and just go. Back here, Mercury 250 Pro XS, 2-stroke guy. Love the 2 strokes. These boats, when they were originally made, were designed around these engines. They're light, the torque. We're seeing bigger and bigger engines on these boats. I've been on them. In all honesty, if you really want to go fast, hey, throw that big giant engine on there and go. But you're gonna lose a couple of things. The weight of this engine versus a Verado or some of these bigger 4-strokes, this engine's so much lighter. Sitting in the water, I'm probably 5 inches at most times higher in the water than these guys with the big giant engines on the back of them. If your goal is just to cruise 70, this isn't the engine for you, at least on these boats. But what we are seeing is it's becoming more and more and more popular. Haynie will do it. A couple other boat manufacturers in Texas will do it. They will get one of these engines. They will build it. They will make it brand new for you. and they will slap it on a brand new boat. And a lot of that has to do with the weight of the engines, the power of the engines, and if you are willing to burn a little bit of oil, do that whole thing, have the 2-stroke noise in the morning, guys, they rip. The maintenance on them super easy because there is no maintenance. You got little tiny things here or there that you got to deal with, but for the most part, you just run them, change the lower unit oil, throw some spark plugs at them, some filters, maybe a compressor now and then, and you're good to go. Going to this engine though, it all comes into play with the props. Have Kaylee show y'all both of these. This is a 24. It's been shimmed down or cut down about 1/4 of an inch. Get me about 200 more RPMs out of it. A little bit of cup added out to the tips. That prop, when we're running far, trying to get some speed out of the engine, that's the best prop we could run right now. Coastal Welding did a great job with these props. Took a little bit off where we needed to, added some into it where we needed it, and then you have the 23XC. The 23XC has been cut down, has had cup added to it on both sides, and flared, I believe, on the rake side, but there's people out there that know way more about that than me. That's the prop that when you want to jump, get up and go, it gets this big giant boat up and out of the water, lets you go. Lose a little bit on the top end there, burn a little bit more fuel on the top end too. 50 miles an hour at both props, that prop burns about 2 gallons more per hour than this prop does. So this is really your cruise, your long distance prop. That's the prop that when the tides drop out, you can go. The other side, we have a power pole mount. Now, me and power pole, while they are great, in our case of wade fishing, it was not worth it in my eyes, even though they have a great warranty system, they have great customer service, they really do. We ran into a lot of problems with the power pole here, there, and elsewhere. It always fails when you don't want it to fail. We choose to anchor now. We do get out of the boat, we get away from the boat. It just got to a point where we were having so many issues, we just couldn't trust the power pole anymore. We would get away from the boat, and the boat would kind of start to move. Mount's still on there, that's a little harder to tear off. Pump, power pole, both been torn off, actually given to people that needed parts to fix their power pole. The final straw for me was the bushings kept going out. They got to a point where you just couldn't keep bushings in it because the holes had gotten just a little too wallered, and then the pump went again, then the motherboard went, and I split ways with the power pole. Up front, we got 4 holes from the trolling motor. Trolling motors are great. If you use them all the time, they tend to last longer. If you don't use them all the time, or if you do use them all the time, you start to have more and more and more and more and more problems. The problem with that is that you end up replacing the batteries, you end up replacing head units and everything else on the trolling motor. And as you do that more and more and more, the expense is racking up basically to keep fixing something that you might use once a year. We don't use it to get in and out of wade spots. It just takes too much time. Usually we just pull up, come in at the angle that we need to, and I haven't noticed a difference at all with the fish that we catch using the big engine versus the trolling motor. The boat will float skinny enough, you just lift the big engine up and go, and then you're usually jumping on plane and getting out of there.
How shallow will the boat float?
Just depends where you have people. I mean, the boat itself, you're floating in 14 inches, no problem. Big boat like this without the tunnel, in soft bottom, we're getting up and right at knee deep, a little bit higher than knee deep. So it all depends on how hard you want to run your engine. We don't do that a whole lot, guys. Sometimes you have to. But the need for the trolling motor wasn't there. Now, and we'll dive into this on a dock side at some point, I'm sure, but the only thing I was using a trolling motor for was snapper fishing. And when we were snapper fishing, every once in a while we'd put it down and spot lock, and it's a great tool. We didn't really fish the jetties a whole lot, didn't really have any need for it besides snapper fishing. And what we figured out is that the size of our snapper got better if we weren't sitting in one spot. The smaller snapper were more willing to come towards you. You know, when you first get there, you might pick a couple big ones off, but as the life came towards you, it seems like the bigger fish went away. So it's not that hard to drift. We use a drift sock. Sometimes I'll just hold this in place with the big engine if the spot is that small. It just wasn't worth the continued headaches. There's some newer options on the market now. Originally, Minn Kota was pretty much the only one and had issues with it. I know the reviews about the PowerPole iPilot or iMove have been phenomenal. Rodan seems to really have their stuff together. Maybe in the future we'll put one on, but as of right now, it's just something else to mess with and keep working. That honestly, as hard as we are on our stuff and the rate that which we're always working on something, it was just one more thing that wasn't working for us more than we were fixing and working on it. So it wasn't the one that went down. It just wasn't a great fix. Underneath, brand new Coastline trailer, put the big tires on it. Guys, if you launch out of Bird Island, you launch out of some of these other marinas, their ramps suck. And these bigger tires, they help you get in and out. Takes a bigger pothole to really throw them off, a bigger bump to really throw them off, as well as it gives you more cushion as you go down the road, right? A little bit more room for the rubber and the air to expand and to cushion your boat, and also make it better for you to tow. I mean, the last thing any of us want when we tow is for our cars to get jerked around. So get bigger tires, get whatever fits in there. But
and this Coastline trailer, they said they put extra on the front, right?
Yeah, so there were some changes they made between the original trailer that I had versus this trailer. Made the neck just a little bit longer to tow it. They said that it allowed maneuverability and it was easier on the vehicle. So electronics were Garmin, Standard Horizon on the radios. Seemed to all be working well together. Everything else, sound system, Rockford Fosgate, amps underneath there, that's Wet Sounds. That's probably the best amp you can get for saltwater. Their speakers are just not to the same par as Rockford Fosgate though. Boat seats 6 very comfortably. You have room to seat 6. When you run this boat more than 4 people total, you start to notice the boat changes. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. The boat will actually hold 9. I don't like doing that at all. Maybe if we go to the canals or something real short, but the boat really likes to perform and run. With 4 people, that's what we fish. That's what it likes, thankfully. And there's so much storage on this boat. I mean, even wade fishing 5 people, we don't run out of room. I mean, we have a compartment that doesn't even get used half the time with 4 people. Probably more than that. All the time, if we have 4 people, we always have one more storage compartment that doesn't even have anything in it. The console is great for when you're wintertime fishing. It blocks all the wind and keeps it off the people on the back bench pretty well. There's other consoles that don't do that good of a job, which you start to notice when you get on other boats. So,
and there's a storage compartment up front as well.
Yeah, you got the storage compartment up front, 2 in the rear. We use both live wells as storage most of the time since we're lures only. And then when we go offshore, the rear one becomes a fish box. It's the easiest one to drain and clean too. Pros of this boat and motor combination. I mean, the boat cruises, we cruise about 45, 46 miles an hour. You can see 60 out of it with this prop. Tournament load, you're seeing about 57, 58 out of the boat. And it's phenomenal in rough water. It can run a foot as long as you're not trying to turn. Doesn't have a tunnel, you're gonna cavitate really running that skinny, but it has the ability to get across it. You can cross the big water. Not everything we run is skinny, guys. If you've ever been in Baffin or Port Mansfield, or even how dicey South Padre gets sometimes, Galveston, any of these other places, if you really have to cross big water, you're gonna want a bigger boat like this if you're able to. It crushes big water and it crushes offshore too. Have the ability to go catch trout in the morning and snapper in the afternoon on the correct day is phenomenal. Just because you can in other boats doesn't really mean you should. This boat does it fairly easily. Have plenty of room for your coolers, your fuel. Your main tank on this is you can squeeze about 100 into it, and I mean you can run forever. It's such a great ability on this boat. Cons, I mean, for the type of fishing we do, there's not a whole lot. When it comes down to it, the way that we fish is what this boat fits. We don't run into knee-deep water and stop and start and stop and start. This isn't a sight fishing boat. It is not set up as such. It's meant to get you there, let you get out, wade it if it really is that shallow, or set up, stop in another configuration and throw bait, something like that. This boat's so easy to drive. It's not like a tunnel boat where you're gonna have to run out of your way to hide from the waves, the wind. It's just so smooth and so dry. The only thing I would probably change is that you can get a spacer on the jack plate now. That might even come in the future. And then just some of the wiring upgrades that we continue to try and fix, and just as the wiring's starting to show its age, we're starting to realize that it wasn't laid out perfectly. So trying to make those changes as we do things. Just upgraded the live well pumps for the rear. It pushes out some serious water now, and changed the jets and the way that it shoots into the live well. Rear light in the back, light on the front, those are on two completely different switches. Run that front live bar. The back's really great for if you pull into a spot, start swinging around looking to see if there's bait in there, or if you're towing a jet ski home that doesn't have lights, you can throw that light back there on it and let people know that you have something behind you. Rear live well, like I said, it is wired up, pump and aerator. The front's not, and here's the reason for that. You ask somebody, even though I know which switch it is, you ask somebody to turn on your live well, even if you have it labeled live well 1 or live well 2, they see live well and they hit it. If they're not familiar with their boat and you're keeping stuff in the front that you want to stay dry, it's not dry anymore. So the wire's still there. There's still a switch for it, but it's pulled off right now. It's not even worth the risk of accidentally hitting it and getting everyone's stuff wet. Sometimes we have expensive camera stuff in there. Sometimes we just have the girls' purses up front. Either way, it's not something you just want to hit on accident. I think we figured that out. We got tacos wet one morning. Had all the tacos and all the food up there, hit the switch on accident. I think it was in the dark, and tacos were very soggy that day. So the only other thing I would change is that at some point we are going to go to the bucket style seats on the seat rack. They don't make those seats anymore like that, unfortunately. So we're going to go to the same brand of seats, just the bucket seats, and then they'll be on swivels so I can still turn sideways and sit when we're snapper fishing or when we're trolling. It's a really comfortable place to be able to spin sideways, put your feet on the gunnel, and watch everything. And with those bucket seats, unless you have them on the little spinny rails, they can't do that. So that's probably one of those things that in the next few months we'll look into. Everything else, the only thing else I would change is I might go to a hard top instead of the cloth top, or do something a little bit more sturdy. The cloth's great, but I just think that hard top look is so much cleaner on the top. It doesn't have this one's still tight, but I don't know. It's hard top's better. I like the hard top. It's more of that offshore look. It does add a little bit of weight, unfortunately. But some of y'all were asking, and we'll comment on the other one with Chris's too. Some of y'all were asking, hey, I cross big water, but then I like to get skinny. Hey, I run skinny, but I still have to cross big water. You've seen two very different boats now. And what I'll say is it all depends on which one are you doing more. Are you crossing big water more to get skinny, or are you in skinny water more and occasionally have to cross big water? The only thing I'll say about that is the cats excel in this skinny water. They run so shallow that tunnel just allows them just to tear up. If you are worried about the cats and you've been on one and you think it's a little rough, but you've been on one of these bigger boats and you just don't think it can handle the skinny stuff, there's a lot of options for V-holes with tunnels now. You're losing a little bit of speed, but what you're losing in speed is the ability to drive it in that skinny water. It's still not going to take off as shallow as maybe a 21 shoal water, but it's gonna handle big water way better. So if you truly are worried about it, I know Haynie has 2 offerings with tunnels now in the V-holes. Maudi is super popular, V-hole tunnel. And there's a couple other ones out there. Explore those bigger style boats with the tunnels. They're gonna take off at about what I can take off with, but they can turn a lot better when you start running shallower. Get the engine up just a little bit higher. Honestly, I don't need to run shallower than I do. If I really need to run that shallow, I'm getting on somebody else's boat and we're not gonna cross any big water. As far as what we do though, wade fishing in Texas, these are really popular in Louisiana. Seeing more and more of them pop up in Florida even. Crossing that big water, the ability to get into skinny places, maybe not as easily as a cat, but as you learn more and more about them, you can get there, you can run across it. It's just, might have a little less pain on your skeg. And remember, when you get into these bigger and bigger boats, just because you can go bigger on the engine, make sure you power to what you are doing. If you still want to run one of these big boats skinny, still take off skinnier, you got to remember, if you hang an extra 400 pounds off the back of these boats, you're sacrificing how they sit. They're sitting deeper. They need a little bit more water to take off, and they need a little bit more water to run. If you want to see the difference, you have a boat and you're thinking about getting another one, but you want the bigger engine, find out how much more weight that next size up engine is that you want. Put that weight on the transom. I promise you, you're going to see a difference on how the boat sits. It may make you rethink going up to that big giant engine. Yeah, these look cool with a 500 on the back, but will it still do what I need it to? No. So, guys, you have any questions? Drop them below. Anything you think I missed, anything you want to ask. But most importantly, just get out there and keep doing your thing. Go find fish. Like, subscribe, follow, comment. Salty Gills. Come get some.